Hey y'all, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to talk about everyone's favorite topic right now, unionization. Yay, we love unions around here. At least I think we do. I mean, let's look into it. So why talk about unions now of all times? I mean, they've been existing for so freaking long, you know? But recently they've become a bit of a hot topic with a little company, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of them, Amazon. I thought it'd be funny there. It's not really that funny when you look at why they're under a lot of hot water with their unionizing efforts. And that's because the company is doing what we usually like to call illegal things, or at least being accused of doing illegal things, like engaging in union busting. So, like attempting to dissuade unions and all that. It's a bit of a like buzzword people like to throw around. But what they've truly been accused of, the two things that I could find in an article I read, because you guys know I love reading my articles and doing my research, it's all I do ever do these days, is that a man was fired at Amazon after delivering a petition, which is illegal, which we'll cover later. We're going to cover some laws right after this, don't you worry. Like, if you don't know union law, neither did I before this. So, like, right now we're just covering why Amazon is bringing this up for everybody. So the other thing they've been doing is retaliation in the workplace, which, not a fun word, is illegal. We're about to cover why that's so illegal. But like Amazon has denied this. They're like, yo, we're not doing these illegal things, because why would they be like, yeah, oh yeah, we're doing illegal things? They're denying it. And that's why you may have heard the words like unions and unionization a little bit more in the news recently. So we're gonna like build a base for this. We're gonna talk about the laws, some of the history, and then why unions are actually like good or bad for a business. So like, if you're down with that, let's go ahead and get started. We love the law. Of course we do. It's our favorite thing in the whole wide world, except when it isn't, but right now, we love it. So there's a lot of regulations around unionization, both on the side of the unions themselves and the businesses the unions are in. So a lot of this comes from the National Labor Relations Act, or the NLRA. It's wonderful, and then it's all enforced by the NLRB, National Labor Relations Board. So basically, if it's NLR, and then a letter, it probably has to do with unions. I don't know. Just keep that in mind. If I ever mention an acronym, it's probably that. So the regulations themselves, they're there mostly to protect the employees and their autonomy. You know, it's super important that people are independent in the workplace. You know, in America, we love our independence, our freedom, especially personal freedom. So unions, good for personal freedom. It's amazing. So, on the side of the employers, what can your employer not do when it comes to unionization? So, the employers cannot coerce employees in any way not to unionize, whether that's be like threatening punishment or offering incentives to not unionize or to not vote for unionization. Like, that's just, they can't do that. Like, I don't know how else to spell it out. And the last thing on that little short list of just like very broad things employers cannot do is in firing employees for union activities or union interests. So when we mentioned Amazon earlier, that guy who delivered a petition and that was fired, that's the sort of like regulation that the employer would be breaking by firing him. Make sense? Cool? Cool. And then what can unions not do? We covered the employers, now what can the unions not do? A union cannot coerce employees either. It's wild. It's almost like the regulations are important for both sides. So they can't coerce employees to join the union with like punishments, threats, promise of rewards, anything like that. Can't do that. Sorry. And they also can't retaliate against employees who leave the union or don't want to join the union. Like they can't do that. You gotta let the employees just kind of like be free humans. So on both sides, we've got all these really good regulations around like, hey, let the employees make their own choices, let them be people, and it's great. So got that out of the way. Unions are not some horrible coercive force that are forcing everyone to unionize. That is not how it is. So we can take a deep breath. If you had that misconception, it is now taken care of. Now, to kind of understand more about unions and why they're good or bad or whatever, we need to look at like the history of it. A lot of character about things can be found in how they've acted in the past. So let's jump into it. All right, history of the labor movement in the United States. We're only focused on the United States here because if I went over all the labor history for the entire world, we'd be here all day. So the first strike in the United States happened around the late 1700s or so. We're working like very loosely on a timeline here. We don't need to know the exact dates, we just need to know broadly what the history is. Okay? Okay, cool, cool. But the biggest kickstart to the labor movement happened with the American Industrial Revolution. Oh, we love the Industrial Revolution and its consequences, including unions. So a lot of it was actually based on really strong American ideals that have been there since the Revolutionary War, including ideas of social equity, honest labor, and living independently. We like those things. Those are true hardcore American values. Unions are built on hardcore American values. Let's go. I like that. A lot of people may not think that, but it's true. It's wonderful. Oh god, the lights. It's fine, I just moved my hands too much. Anyway, so that really jump-started everything, and then it slowed down for a while, you know. They did a whole lot of stuff, and then it just kind of lost momentum. It was still going, you know, but it wasn't like super strong and powerful. And then boom, next big economic event. Can you guess an economic event that happened in the 1920s in the United States? That's right, it's what half of college students probably have. It's the Great Depression. I think that was a funny joke. Anyway, so yeah, that really brought momentum back to it, and you know, it stayed strong for a while. So around the 1970s, we slow it down again. We slow down real good. And what we're kind of seeing right now, we don't really have a source for this, but what I've seen personally in the news is that we're kind of jumping into unionization again, you know, between Starbucks and Amazon and even some stuff with Apple. Unions are becoming a much hotter topic again. The momentum's picking up. It's pretty great. But before we celebrate unionization too much, I do have a little disclaimer about it. The history of unions is mixed up with racism and sexism. And you can do so much research into that and all of that craziness, but it's just important to know nothing is perfect, right? Like, it's definitely gotten better. The beginning versus now in the labor movement, sexism and racism has gone down tremendously, but we have to acknowledge the roots of it. So just be aware. I have addressed it. I'm trying not to be too biased with this whole topic. But yeah, that's the history of unionization. We start with a base in good American values, and we've kept moving since then. So like now that we know the laws and like where it started, let's kind of jump into the business side of things, which you guys know I love to do. Is, you know, if you're a manager, stick around, you know, and if you're not a manager, stick around too, please, because this is really interesting stuff. At least I think it is. Anyway, we're going to talk about why unions are good for businesses and why unions are bad for businesses. Alright, this part of the video is going to take the form of, like, you know, an argumentative essay. You know, we're going to make up the good stuff, the bad stuff. I'm going to refute some things. So, let's get into it, starting with the good. Unions are proven to be good for economic growth. Huh. When you have a union at your business, it differentiates you from your competitors. So that means when people are like, you know, looking for a good old job, and they see you versus the other guy, and you have a union and they don't, they're probably going to choose the one with a union. So you're probably going to get like more skilled employees that way. Because that's just kind of what happens when you have good differentiation. If you do some studying into it, it's pretty awesome stuff. Next, higher productivity tends to happen in union businesses. I don't know the reasoning behind a lot of this stuff, but if you go into the sources below, they will probably help you. Sources below for everything I've talked about in this video, okay? Anyway, you get lower employee turnover on top of that higher productivity, you get improved workplace communication, and you get a better trained workforce. Like I just mentioned, you know, if you differentiate, you get all these good things. It's good. It's wonderful. We love having all this skill in the workplace. And it is also important to note, if unionization efforts are happening, you cannot stop them. You legally can't. So even though we're talking about why it's good and bad for businesses, you can't stop it if it's happening. So this isn't like a, you should let unions in or you should not let unions in. You've gotta. So with that, we're going to jump into the bad. What are some things that could happen to a business if the employees start unionizing? First of all, it's pretty obvious, pretty cut and dry, I think. A higher cost of labor. So because union employees tend to be paid more and have, like, they're more likely to have health insurance through their employer, it makes sense that the cost of labor is going to go up a bit. But with that differentiation, you could balance it out. It's like, yeah, the employee may cost more, with wages and such, but at the same time, we're getting a better employee out of it. So you gotta weigh that. You gotta look at it and be like, yeah, maybe unions are good. And then, of course, the next one, employees can legally go on strike. This is just a unionization activity. That's just how it is. You can't stop it. But it can also make you lose production, and other customers may stop shopping at your place or buying your products because they empathize with the employees for whatever reason. But at the same time, if you're treating your employees right, then they probably won't end up going on strike. So if your employees are striking a lot, I hate to say it, that's probably a you thing. But some people are too demanding. Totally get it, But it is something that we don't like it when people go on strike if we're the business. The business doesn't like it. The next one is one that I was a little sad to find, is that new employees would probably be fired more quickly than older employees if people have to be laid off. And that's just a trend in unions, is that they like to protect seniority. So if someone's been working there for 5 years and someone's been working there for 5 months, the person who's been working for 5 months is probably going to be let go if someone needs to be let go, which sucks. And that's something to acknowledge. I think that everyone, not just businesses, but also unions, can acknowledge that maybe that's not the best thing in the world. It's important to protect people who have spent a lot of time with a business, but it's also good to bring in new, fresh people. It's a balance. And that's just a personal opinion. I'm bringing my opinion into it. I always do. I do not stop. You cannot stop me. This is my channel. Anyway, the last thing, which I find to be the funniest negative that I found in my research, was the potential for more lawsuits. The thing about a lawsuit is that it's really only going to be filed if someone has sufficient evidence that you are screwing up big time. So, to prevent extra lawsuits, here's a life hack. Don't mess up big time. There are probably going to be some extra lawsuits in there that aren't super founded, and it's based on things that aren't true, and you haven't actually done anything wrong. That happens. Things like that happen. But if you're worried about a huge influx of lawsuits, that huge influx is really only going to happen if you have really awful lawyers on your side, if your employees have either really good or really corrupt or both lawyers, or if you're screwing up really badly. So just don't do that. Yeah. And that's the good, the bad, and the ugly of unions on the business side of things. And regardless of how you feel after that argument, unionization is going to happen. You're legally not allowed to stop it. That is the main undercurrent of this video. But if it's gonna happen, you might as well reap the benefits of it. If people are already gonna be unionizing at your place of business, you might as well be well, the good things come with it. And you can help prevent the bad things by not being awful. Yay! But thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. Remember, sources are in the description. Please comment if you have questions or anything, yada yada yada. And with that, I'm out of here. Bye!